What's up everyone, thanks for tuning in. So I figure I start off the first video of 2021 with an A20 transmission disassembly video. So hopefully for you guys that are planning to either doing a rebuild on your A20 transmission or dropping the ZC first generation Integra gears into it, this video will help you out. Alrighty, so before I start this video off, quick disclaimer, I am not an expert at rebuilding transmissions or anything like that. I highly recommend you guys download the master manual off the 3G's wiki site, which I will leave a link in the description below. It has everything to tell you as far as like clearances, torque specs, all the really important stuff. But I have done this before. I've taken apart A series and the ZC stuff 2 times. I've taken apart B series transmissions before, specifically the YS1, so I kind of have a good general idea on how to go about doing them. I'm sure all your transmission experts out there watching this are probably going to tell me I'm doing a lot of stuff wrong and there's a lot of like clearance stuff that I should be doing, but I don't bother doing that. Honestly, if I can, if I see bad gears or bad synchros, it's kind of easy to spot. And if it doesn't rotate at all, then obviously there's a huge problem. But for the record, all the stuff that I've done, put back together, has worked and worked consistently. So if that means anything to you guys, then hopefully you guys will gain some stuff. At least it'll get you guys started if you guys are ever, wanting to get into the whole transmission side of things. So yeah, so let's start this off. So this is actually, all this right here, this is the half case, and then this is the bell housing. So this bell housing was actually from the first generation. This is the ZC bell housing. This will not bolt up to the A series engine at all. So you're gonna need the A series bell housing specifically. This is the A series half case. So this half case is from specifically the hatchback, the carbureted A20, the A20 A1, and it has the A20 A1 gears, and they are slightly longer. Actually, they are the longest A series gearing that I know of. Excuse me. And yeah, so if you guys have ever taken apart transmissions before, specifically Honda, it's pretty much kind of the same thing. The only difference is this part, and I'll get to that. That's like the only thing I see different as far as like everything else that I've seen before, but other than that, it's not a big deal. So let's get this started. All right, so before I get started on breaking this down, I figure I give a quick walkthrough, I guess. If you guys do have this transmission still bolted up to your engine inside your car, if you guys just want to do maintenance on it or just do whatever, or have an idea what you're looking at better without having to look through hoses and wiring and all that good stuff, give you guys an idea of what everything is and where everything is. So this would be like the top area you'd be seeing once you like are looking at it from in front of your car. So your clutch cable goes through here with that little wheelie thing. We can adjust it, attaches up through here. When you hit the clutch, it pushes the throwout bearing and stuff. This is your reverse switch. So when you go into reverse, there's a button in here on this switch. It gets depressed, sends a signal to your reverse lights. Going around, this is where your axle, your excuse me, your passenger side or driver side if you're in Japan or Europe goes into, and then this seal tends to get worn out, as you can see here, so this needs to get replaced. Usually anytime you gotta change out axles, I'd highly recommend replacing that. This is your drain plug. You can see it's kind of gnarled up, but this thing is a 3/8, and then this is your fill up top. Going around, that's where your starter goes, and then breather, and I think I got everything. Well, that gives you guys an idea what to look for and where your shift rod goes to. Now actually, so something I'm going to do real quick, you're going to have to work with this to like either put in reverse and other gears and stuff to be able to work with stuff, and I'll show you here what I mean in a second. So best way to work with this, unless you have the rod still connected to it and you didn't want to have to bother with the clevis, or the also known as the bitch bolt or whatever, or sorry, the bitch pin. What I usually do is I'll just get like a zip tie and just make a loop, and I just like work with it that way, or you could put a screwdriver in, and whatever ways to help you work with that shifting stuff whenever you need to. So all right, so I'm start breaking this down. All right, I'm going to start with the simple stuff first. So take out the reverse switch. It's going to be a 19mm open end wrench. Okay. So yeah, when you go in reverse, this gets depressed and then it sends a signal to your lights. Yeah, and kind of obvious to say, guys, organization, try to organize yourself. You have to get like some cardboard paper I've seen people do where they'll actually label out each part or whatnot, like each gears if they're planning on taking out all the stuff. Yeah, so label is key. Or if you want to, and this is your first time, you feel really uncomfortable doing this, but you know, you made a decision to go do it, then it's not a bad idea to actually record yourself and just go back and just see like what you did wrong or what worked and what didn't work. So whatever helps. All right, the next step is going to be removing these 3 detent springs and balls. So I already broke these loose, so be very careful when you do these. So there is a ball in there. So basically this is actually a spring. Here, I'll just take it out so you show you guys. So just be careful when you do this. Okay, there's a spring right there, and there's gonna be a ball, and you guys can get a magnet. There you go. Do not lose these. And I mean, if you guys really want to get really specific, just kind of like put these all together and stuff, or like mark them down, like what went to what. So yeah, there's gonna be 3 of them. So what I actually been like thinking of doing, I haven't tried this yet. So companies such as Speed Factor and stuff make actually upgraded, so a heavier spring and ball. I don't think the ball makes a difference. Basically a stiffer spring, and what it's supposed to do for like a more performance build is, I guess it makes the shifts a lot smoother and more crisper. I know they make them for like all your well-known Honda engines like D series, B series, K series and stuff like that. I'm not sure if any of those are compatible with the A series and stuff. Like, I'm willing to try because they're really not that expensive. So I'll get back to you guys if I pick some up, because I do have a D series and B series now. Before I install them on the Civic or the Integra, because I think they're only like 20, 30 bucks or whatever for a set. I'll get back to you and let you know if it works for the A series. So yep, there's gonna be 3 of them, and if need be, you may need to, it's been a while since I've done this, so you may need to like shift them to be able to get to them. All right, next step is gonna be removing the axle seal, and it's super simple. Just get like a flathead screwdriver and then pry it off. And you see this bearing, if you're gonna be doing a rebuild kit, if you bought a rebuild kit and planning on just rebuilding this transmission, that bearing should be replaced. And there's a snap ring in there. We're not gonna worry about that yet. Now we're gonna take this cover off. All right, so to remove this cover, it's 10mm all the way around. Now, a pet peeve of mine that I usually like doing on like anything that's bolted down like in a circle that makes any sense is I like to loosen up the bolts in like a star pattern, just to like, evenly, loosen tension. I know some people don't really care, especially on stuff like this. I know this isn't like a cylinder head or anything like that, but or a wheel, but I always like tightening them down and loosening them in an even manner, in a star pattern, in a somewhat of a star pattern. So I'm going to proceed to take this cover off. All right, cover's off. I have a little bolts in it. Now there's usually a gasket on here that should be by now be kind of fried and crispy. Replace that gasket. I'm gonna see if I can find one online. If you can't find one, then Honda Bond or like any equivalent like RTV and stuff will suffice to be able to seal this. It's up to you. So here we go. So we got your main shaft, counter shaft. How you know this is the main shaft? The main shaft, to remember which one is which. If you go underneath the bell housing, main shaft that sticks out through both sides is where the clutch and stuff, all that stuff goes to. It's the main shaft, and then the one you cannot see is the counter shaft. So now we're going to proceed in removing all this. Okay, so this is the one unique factor that I found with these Honda transmissions, the earlier ones, is that there actually is a separate compartment for 5th gear, unlike D series, B series, where it's actually just the whole half case just covers the whole thing. Oh Jesus. So yeah, you're gonna have to remove all this to be able to lift the rest of the case off. Now to do so, there's a pin right here you need to punch out. I'll give you the size of that pin, and then remove both these lock nuts. So here's in my opinion, the most important part to remember right now, the main shaft lock nut is left hand threads. So righty loosey, lefty tighty. The counter shaft is regular right hand, lefty loosey, righty tighty. Remember that. Now, if you did download the master manual, now it's going to tell you you're going to need a special tool that basically locks the main shaft that connects to the bottom right here, to where when you loosen this up that it won't spin. So I don't have that tool and I've never needed it. The easiest way I found to, once you unstake these, to loosen these lock nuts is to have an impact. Have an impact gun, buy one, rent one, borrow one, whatever. An efficient one, and you will be able to get these lock nuts off. All right, so I'm gonna unbend these locking tabs, and these lock nuts are gonna require a big ol' 30mm socket. Alright, so my thing is, do not mix up these two nuts. Now, I'm going to punch out the pin that's holding this, and you're going to need a 5mm punch. And if I remember correctly, this one was a pain. Give you guys an idea what I'm looking at right now. That's where I'm hitting it, and that's where it's coming through. So yeah, I just put that bolt in right here just for my luck. It actually falls in there, so that would suck. It would be recoverable, but I don't want to deal with that. Ain't nobody got time for that. There it goes. Don't lose this either. All right, so one thing I forgot to do was actually take out the throwout bearing, which is pretty simple. Oh, and a quick note too. So this hole right here, this is your speed sensor, your VSS, specifically a cable VSS. So you really can't really see down there, but basically, yeah, this thing just drops down here, and gear spins that thing, and it tells you how fast your car goes, or how slow it goes. So to take out the throwout bearing, where's that thing at? So just lift here, use it forward. It's kind of difficult filming and doing this, so okay, follow where this spring goes onto here. Just get some needle nose pliers and just pull it out and pull it off on both ends, and then that throwout bearing will come right out. Just like that. And then where those, where those springs attached to, you just go in these little slots right here on either side. And then to reinstall a new one, which this thing is done for, reverse process. Oh, and a quick tip, if you ever buy a used transmission, this sounds really dumb, because I'm dumb. If you ever buy a used transmission, grab the main shaft, spindle, and spin it. Make sure it spins, or you're gonna end up like me, spending $200 on a YS1 LS trans that was all locked up, and a whole useless transmission. Well, the gears were good, but that diff was just gone. All right, I want to proceed on disassembling all this. Just be very careful when you do. Try to remove all this one piece with gear. Those colors. So yeah, if you were gonna do the Integra gears and you wanted to have that longer overdrive gear, longer fifth gear for cruising, this is what you would change out or switch over. So basically, put it this way, like first through fourth gear, all this stuff that you're about to see before I pull all this off is what you're going to be switching out if you're going to be putting the Integra gears into the Accord bell housing. And then all this top piece right here is going to be all your fifth gear replacement if you're going to keep that from your stock setup or from a whatever setup. Like for example, if you have an LXI or a Prelude and you wanted a shorter fifth gear than you already have in that, then get a fifth gear from a carbureted DX Accord, all this right here, and just swap it over and you'll have a longer cruising gear. Now keep in mind, give or take, fourth gear to fifth gear would probably be somewhere around like about 1,000 to 1,500 RPM drop. Like that's how significant it's probably going to be. So don't lose this. The easiest way of doing all this stuff, guys, is just keeping everything together. Alright. I'll show you that here in a second. Put this back on this so I do not lose this. Alright, so this bearing right here is going to come off. And there's a snap ring in place, which is what you're going to need to pry off to be able to remove the bearing. Actually, I'm trying to remember if you have to remove this bearing or not to be able to take this whole half case off the bell housing. I don't think you do. I mean, we'll find out here in a second. So here, I'll just put this back on here for now. Definitely, if you were going to replace this bearing, then obviously you're going to have to remove the snap ring to be able to remove this off, but I'm pretty sure that once you loosen everything up here and then you pull it off, that's just going to stick with the half case, and then you can mess with it there. I mean, either or. So right now I'm going to proceed to take apart all these bolts off. The half case from the bell housing is going to be 12 millimeter, and same concept that I do. Like, I see people just go around clockwise, counterclockwise. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you. I like to do it in like a star pattern. That's just me. You don't have to do it that way. And I'm going to proceed to do that right now. All right, so once you crack all these loose and they're just pretty much finger loose, then you can go however you want to loosen it. Okay, all the bolts are gone. The one last thing you got to do now is get some snap ring pliers, take the snap ring off, and then lift the casing. See, because as you can see, it won't come off. It is looser though. Okay, never had it come out like that before. Got it. I don't think I put RTV or Honda bond on this thing when I sealed it, because I know I wasn't going to be using this for anything. Alright, you guys can pry it open. There's pry points. Careful where you put it, because you don't want to damage this. Oh, you know what? Think about it. There it goes. Okay, careful now. Oh, I forgot about that. Anything else? Huh, maybe I might do, maybe I might have to take this bearing off after all. Oh, no. Okay. She's off. All right, so we're at this point. Let's talk about it here a little bit. You got your diff, counter shaft, main shaft, all your shifters, shift forks and stuff, sorry, whatnot. This part right here is the, I'll show you when the time comes. This is the biggest pain in the ass, at least for me it is. Reverse idler pulley if I don't fall on my ass. Yeah, so if both your Accord and Integra transmissions are at this point, it can, and you don't even care about rebuilding, or you know what to look for, everything looks good, synchros look good, whatnot, seals look good. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, it'd be worth just rebuilding it, changing out the seals, bearings, and synchros. Just my 2 cents. If you're at this point, you might as well do it. Otherwise, if you put it in the car and come to find out all they're trash, then you have to take the whole trans apart from the car again and then do all this again. So that's my advice. Anyways, you have everything set up. It can be literally as easy as just, you know, keeping this all together. Take the Integra gears, dropping it in the Accord, and just replacing all this, and just drop this in the Accord bell housing. Put the put the half case back on, bolt everything back up, and make sure everything shifts good, everything's rotating good, and you are good to go. Put this back on the car. Now I'll put a picture up. When my suggestion, my advice is, if you're going to be putting this back together and you're doing the Integra gear swap, put the Integra half case on, not the Accord. And I'll show you the reason why. So this is the Accord's half case. Now I said, you'll see in the picture, you see these 3 holes right here. So these are the passages where the trans fluid or oil goes through to lubricate all the gears. Now those of you that know these cars or have had these cars for a long time, if you don't keep up on your oil maintenance and whatnot, 5th gear is a pretty common gear to die before everything else in your trans. It pretty much is due to under lubrication, excess heat, so on and so forth. So what members have done in the past that I've heard was they've actually would drill and bore this hole out to allow more oiling in here. The Integra half case actually already has it big enough, so you will already, just by that, is an upgrade enough for more oiling to the Accord gear. So I don't know, it's kind of a weird engineering design. I don't know why. It's literally the same designed half case as the Accords, as the A20s, but for whatever reason they just made the oil pouring on this part of the half case bigger. So there's that, something to keep in mind. All right, so before we start taking all this stuff off, gotta take out the shifter mechanism. So this dowel right here, just pull up and take out. See, so that part sits in right here. Now that thing's kind of a pain putting everything back in together, kinda. The easiest way that I remember doing it when I finally figured it out was, so when you get this thing aligned and all the shift forks all in right here, and make sure that dowel is deep in there, it'll still feel kind of loose, but the best way that I found out that what works is when you reinstall the half case, it's gonna sit right here. And the first time I did this, I messed up. So everything lined up, everything actually bolted down, but the top of this wasn't in here. So when it wouldn't even shift, it was just locked out. So I had to take apart the whole thing again and then figure that out on my own. And there's that. Oh, all right guys, I apologize. Trying to film this and do this at the same time is kind of challenging, so hopefully this is a good angle for you guys to see and understand. So I already took this out. So basically it's gonna be set up something like this. Already took that shifting mechanism out to remove this, which you're gonna have to lift up, pull this up, turn it counterclockwise or to the left, and it's out. Set it aside. Now, the reason why I have to pull that out is because this plate right here is held down by 3 10mm bolts. As you can see, I already took 2 out. But to be able to get to that one, you're gonna have to remove that shift rod out of the way. And basically this arm is attached to that. This will be able to come off, and then you'll be able to remove the reverse idler pulley and then give you one step closer to removing the main and counter shafts off. All right, so something to keep in mind. So that bolt is actually shorter overall length than these two, at least in my case it was. Give you guys an idea. So just remember that when you reinstall this whole thing. Oh, I thought I could do it one-handed. No, it's caught. There we go. And it's off. All right. Now over here, pull this out. Grab the reverse idler out. Set it aside. Let me see what else. Okay, and now I need to remove this plate to be able to get that bearing out. I think there's another one over here. Nope. Okay, yep, just gotta remove this plate. All right, I'm about to lift the main shaft and counter shaft out. If you're worried about something weird happening to where all these will fly off or something, for whatever reason, you guys can throw on the 5th gear and counter 5th gear assembly on top of this and lock everything back down, just in case stuff starts flying off, it won't slide all the way off and you don't remember where anything goes. So, but worst case scenario, if you have downloaded the master manual, it'll tell you everything and what order it should go into. All right. So what I like to do first is just loosen up the shift forks, their little assemblies, just so they won't cause any drag, so to speak. Hopefully the bearing on the main shaft isn't seized in or something weird. Get this out of the way. Just kind of work it. Take your time. Whoa. Almost got dangerous, huh? Needless to say, if you have a friend with you, have them help you. There we go. Jablam. Now I said I didn't zip tie these or anything together, but like you can grab them all just like this, and it's as easy as, you know, pretend if these were the Integra ZC gears, lift these up. If the Acura looks like this, drop them in and you're good to go. Or do the smart thing, take all these separately apart and inspect them. Inspect the teeth. If you really want to get crazy, get a feeler gauge, see what the clearances are, change the synchros, so on and so forth, and clean them. Set these aside. Okay. Let's see if I got the angle on it. Kinda. That's better than nothing. All right, then to remove the diff, it is as simple as just that. Let's pull it off. Or if you're in my situation with the B series trans I have that's absolutely useless, this thing is seized in there. It won't even spin or nothing. And I have tried every single thing to try to get it out. Heat, solvents, like hammering it out. I didn't even care. I was like, this thing's trash anyway. I haven't tried hammering that thing out. Held a torch to it for like a million years. Nothing. That diff ain't coming out. Cool, so yeah. These are all pressed on. This is the weakest link. That thing snaps in A series transmissions all the time. Well, okay, not all the time. If you're pretty much anywhere about, for at least 10 plus horsepower or whatnot from stock power. These things are definitely not really well suited for that. However, I will say that the way you drive the car too also has a lot of could lead to diff failure as well, dropping clutches or whatever. But yeah, so all these bearings are pressed on. I haven't really done bearings on a diff before. You guys can do your own research into that. However, I do know that B16's diffs with slight modification do go in these. So that is an option for an LSD, and I believe, what was it, the Waves or the Wavetracs? I think they're rated to like 500 horsepower. I'll leave a link in the description down to those. So if you guys still really want to stay diehard A series through and through, pretty much your options. Looks like clean all this stuff out. Okay, if you just needs to get changed, if you have your rebuild kit, just unscrew this, take that out. You got your another axle seal, got to change out. So clean this whole thing out. Magnet. I took this apart before, so that's why you don't see it now. But there used to be just like a bunch of like, looks like fuzz, like hair, but it's just metal shavings throughout all the years. And obviously, that's kind of like what you want to look out for. If you see chunks of metal on this magnet, then you may have a gear that has broken off a tooth or something of the sort. Okay, this seal needs to be changed out. This is actually pretty crazy. This is like a factory gasket right here. So when you reassemble this, I'll talk about that when I start reassembling it. But yep, breather. And then a cool little thing too for the speedo. I think I told you earlier about. This is where it goes. Oh, and another thing too. So also drop the final drive. So for the Integra, if you're doing the Integra swap, also swap in its diff as well. All right, so transmissions overall are not my expertise. I just know what I know from the internet and advice from people that I would consider expertise at these. So anyway, so this is your main shaft. To pretty much remember, main shaft is, this is what actually goes out on the other side of the bell housing where that throw-out bearing goes. Let's see here, some key notes. I'll go on that when I reassemble. So yeah, disassembly of this thing is pretty, like, in a weird way, it kind of only goes back. Okay, this is not true, but just remember what everything looks like. Remember how things go. Take your time. There's stuff with inside of it too, like sleeves and collars. So you see this brass looking thing. This is a synchros, or known as a synchros. So these definitely need to get replaced over time, especially when your gears are grinding. Every time you put it in that gear, more than likely your synchros are done up. So you can get basic replacement ones for pretty cheap, or you can get D series ones which work on the A series stuff as well. I recommend Synchrotech. You can actually, it's cool because you can even get carbon synchros, which is way stronger than these brass ones. Cost a little more, but you know, it's just an option. They'll last longer, they're stronger. I believe the serial number for that is SYN, so SYN 111 111. So SYN 111 is what works, and that's for my member. Shout out to Joe. And yeah, so just some things to look out for. You can get super nerdy and really inspect this stuff, or honestly, if you guys have a reputable transmission rebuilder, if you've gotten this far and you really want to, you know, have extra assurance that your drivetrain is in somewhat healthy order, just bring them your main shaft, your counter shaft with all the gears and stuff, and just have them inspect it. I don't know how much they would charge you, probably not much, since they don't have to go through the whole disassembly stuff, but just something to consider. Take it to them, have them check out the gears. Even if you have all the stuff in that master manual, just like print them out, tell them like, hey, cool, these are the clearances that they need to be at. This is, you know, the tolerances they should be around for whatever. Is it within spec? Would you trust it? You know, is there anything that you would replace? And you know, see what they do. Like, because honestly, like if you brought them all this and just, you know, asked them for that, and they know what to look for, they do it for a living, I guarantee you, you made like their job for you like 10 times easier than if you would have brought them a whole transmission and so on and so forth. So obviously transmission reassembly is just as important as inspecting all this stuff and knowing how to, so keep that in mind. And yeah, that's about it I have on that. So I'm gonna start reassembling all this stuff, and that should be it.